need anything at all, please just ask one of the team who will be happy to assist you. We invite you to sit back, relax and enjoy the flight.
Good morning and welcome back to another video. Today we'll be flying from Auckland, New Zealand to Singapore via Sydney. And in today's video, we'll experience the first leg from Auckland to Sydney with Air New Zealand on one of their 777s in economy class. And this is the first time I'll be flying this route, so it's going to be a new experience for the books. The flight is set to depart at 9 a.m. and it's just about 7 o'clock in the morning now. So come along, should be a great day. I think it's about 3.5 hours over to Sydney. And yeah, we'll experience the wonderful hospitality of Air New Zealand as we go from A to B. We begin outside the international terminal on a fairly cool morning. The airport has a healthy buzz with passengers checking in for the morning flights. Generally, for international flights, arriving at the airport 3 hours prior to departure is my standard rule, but Air New Zealand's website recommended 2, so on this particular day, I went with that, which I soon found out wasn't the smartest move. By the time we arrived at the check-in area, the line for the kiosks was well into the corridor. The initial line, though long, wasn't terrible, and soon we were at the kiosk where I successfully tapped my way through the check-in process, until the last screen. Instead of a boarding pass being printed, we are rewarded with this screen. Perfect. The customer service desk is small, located in the middle of the sea of kiosks. The line for the service desk snaked its way through the sea, but at the same time blocking other passengers from using other kiosks. The line was disorganized at times with people jumping in and took an hour to reach the service desk. Once we were called over, there was no greeting and the agent was having a conversation with another employee. We stood there for 2 minutes while they were having their meeting before she even asked for our passports, and even then their conversation still continued with minimal interactions with us. Overall, it was a poor check-in experience. I wasn't pleased one bit. Yeah, it said to come here from the kiosk.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's going to come down.
Bags to check in?
No.
So the flight's arriving at 8.
No, that's why I'm here. Alright, so I just made it through the passport control and the security, but that check-in was an absolute mess. You know, those kiosks, the program has to be able to identify at the start whether it can facilitate the whole check-in or not. I touched my way through the screens and then it says, okay, you have to visit the customer service representative or the agent or whatever. So you have to stand into another line, and then for Air New Zealand, their customer service area is in the center of all the kiosks. So you're standing in this line that kind of weaves its way around other kiosks and blocks other kiosks from being used from other people. And the line went really slow, and eventually we get to the desk and the lady is having a conversation with another employee about whatever. So, and then we're just standing there like waiting for them to finish their conversation. Like it's great they're gonna have a conversation, but I kind of want to get my boarding pass. And I think what happened is since my itinerary has a flight to Tokyo, they want to make sure that I have my vaccine paper because Japan, you still need 3 vaccines to get into the country. So got our ticket and it was fine, but you know, one reason I guess, you know, people don't like flying is all the hassle, and the check-in's the first thing you really encounter in an airport. So if you have a bad experience there, sometimes it maybe sets the mood for the rest of the day, but you know what? It's all done. It took an hour to get through, but it's over with. I'm still looking forward to a great flight, and I'm sure the rest of the day is going to be much better than the check-in, so I'm excited to get on board. And now we really only have about 10 minutes before we jump on board. So we'll head to the gate and do that. I don't even think there's time for coffee right now. From the few moments that I had, the terminal gate side, past the duty-free, appeared to have an open, fresh feel. I thought the design of the ceiling is a nice touch. There's a healthy selection of shops and restaurants, and I would have loved to spend some time here had I not been in such a rush. On top of the escalators, there is the bistro box, and I ended up having enough time to grab a quick coffee before we jump on board. Today we're departing from Gate 3. This gate kind of reminded me of Tao Wan International Airport in Taipei, where the gates are accessed by an escalator down a floor from the main terminal corridor. By the time we arrived, boarding was in full swing, and to be honest, the long line provided the opportunity to catch my breath and enjoy my coffee before jumping on board. This was a full flight, so I was unable to change my seat at check-in. Thus, we'll be at seat 40C for our flight over to Sydney. Today we're on one of the 6 Boeing 777-300s, which is in Air New Zealand's fleet for our flight to Australia. This 8-year-old aircraft has 3 classes with 346 seats. The premium economy is notably large, housing 54 seats. There are 11 lavatories on board, and Air New Zealand Sky Couch is installed in rows 39 to 46, 49, and 50. The economy cabin is bright, spacious, and inviting on these daytime flights. The bold IFE screens and dark seats provide contrast to the otherwise bright cabin. Speaking of IFE screens, do note that they are installed on the bulkheads for those bulkhead row seats. There are 10 seats per row in a 3-4-3 seating configuration. Rows 34 and 35 offer paired seats by the window, along with the last 3 rows due to the tapering design of the aircraft. And here's a glance at the seats in premium economy. Looks pretty comfy, doesn't it? Back in economy, the seats are black with a headrest and black antimacassar, and you can see the headrest is adjustable. We are in row 40, which is a row with a sky couch, and you can see the extra button on the armrest, which releases the extension for the couch. The sky couch is available for long-haul flights, so today it provides no added benefit beyond the 1 extra inch of legroom. Seatback is slightly different on the 777s compared to what we've experienced on the Dreamliners. Above the seatback table is an easily adjustable IFE screen. A pair of net pockets, which I prefer over the traditional fabric line pockets, provide some storage for personal items. Seat pitch in the sky couch rows is 32 inches, while 31 inches elsewhere. But regardless, some leg space is used for the electrical system. The power outlet, located above the pocket, is a clever choice. The ergonomic design makes it easily accessible, even if you have a short cable. And it's not as awkward as when the socket is near the floor, or worse, under your seat. And above you have the reading light, sans the air control. Air New Zealand offers free Wi-Fi on its 777s. I managed to connect to it this time, and it was reliable and perfectly acceptable for texting, email, Google Drive, social media, posting images. Speaking of posting images, if you are a new viewer, I invite you to subscribe for continued aviation and travel-related content, and to check me out on some of these other platforms where I post and share my thoughts about my trips. And a big shout out to all those who are already subscribed. I enjoy reading your comments and the insight you provide. Soon after we got off the ground, water was offered to wishing participants. Breakfast service began about an hour into the flight. For breakfast, there was 1 hot and 1 cold option, each served with a small berry pastry. I went with the hot item, which was a frittata served with a tomato salsa. The salsa added that necessary tangy bite, and it paired well with the frittata. And the cold dish was a muesli. I tried a few bites. The berry compote added a bit of sweetness to the dish, but I was happy I went with the hot option on this flight. The only issue I had was being a southpaw seated in a C seat. Hashtag left-handed problems. To complement the meal, I enjoyed a Steinlager Classic.
So cheers to New Zealand. Thank you for a lovely week. I look forward to returning. In addition to the Wi-Fi, there is the IFE, which was equally as responsive as the one on their Dreamliners, with an easy-to-follow user interface. It had a nice selection of local and international content. I settled on Educators, a New Zealand comedy for the majority of the flight. I highly recommend to give it a view. There is also Kia Ora, the in-flight magazine, which are located in the bulkheads. I picked up an issue on my previous flight. And here's a look at one of the lavatories. No fancy wall design, but I appreciated the soft lighting, a welcome change from that standard fluorescent white light. And I can't forget the soft rock playing from above. Prior to preparing to land, the cabin attendants handed out little candies to all the passengers. Nice touch. Airport issues aside, I really enjoyed the hospitality on board both my Air New Zealand flights. Staff were friendly and enthusiastic and did a great job. But I think the check-in system has to be addressed and looked at. It was an unpleasant experience to say the least. I could only imagine how much more stressful it would be for someone who doesn't fly often or someone who isn't fluent in English, as it would add another layer of confusion to the situation. This was my first of a 3-flight itinerary from Auckland to Tokyo via Sydney and Singapore. The cost came out to 1,148 New Zealand dollars for this one-way trip.
Alright, so that's an Air New Zealand's flight from Auckland to Sydney in economy class. And check-in issues aside, it was a nice flight, smooth flight over, and there was a nice breakfast to time me over for a couple hours, which I really enjoyed. And overall, had a nice relaxing time. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought about Air New Zealand's economy class from Auckland to Sydney. And thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode.